When a woman catches her husband sneaking out late at night for hours on end, she fears the worst. However, as you can see by the title of this episode, things unfortunately turn out much dirtier than she could ever have imagined. This is r/confession. My husband's dirty secret turned out to be much dirtier than I could ever imagine. So, over the past few months, I've noticed my husband sneaking out of the house at night, sometimes for hours at a time. I'm one of those people that fall asleep as soon as their head hits the pillow, so he obviously thinks I'm asleep. But one night, I heard the baby crying and noticed he wasn't there. At first, I thought he was sneaking out to see another woman, but it turns out it was worse than that, in my opinion anyway. We had our first child in February this year, and he's been a really hands-on father. Always there to take care of the baby, despite having a full-time job when I need a break and all that. I don't know how else to really say what he's doing without it sounding completely insane, because it kind of is, but it turns out when my husband goes out at night, all he does is go into the yard where the trash cans are, rummage around, and fish out a dirty diaper from our child's. He then opens it and just stands there, smelling it. It seems to only be the ones that our son has gone number 2 in, because I've seen him toss back ones that presumably only had been peed in and look for a dirtier one. And then he just stands there, taking this deep, contented breaths in of our child's excrement for ages. The sad thing is, he looks so dang happy when he's doing it too. I've watched him from the window for weeks now, just standing out there, sniffing, with this huge grin on his face, and then rummaging around for another. The real icing on the cake was the other night when he came back to bed, once again thinking I was asleep. He must have got a bit too close to the diaper when he was sniffing our son's business, because when he got into bed with me, I could smell something and open my eyes a bit when I finally heard him snoring, and it turns out he had a bit of poop on his nose. I felt so disgusted. So I'm at a loss as to what I should do now. I love my husband, but this freaks the hell out of me. Has this happened to anyone else before? Is it a fetish or something? I'm too scared to confront him, but I know it needs to be done. And any advice would be great because, shit. Now don't get me wrong guys, I know that Reddit can be quite a weird place. I've been on the site long enough to know that, but this is insane. I don't even know where to start. How can it be that someone you love so much, out of the blue, when you have a kid, starts doing something like this? Where would your mind immediately go? It does sound a bit like a fetish to me, but it is such a strange thing. Comment below, do you have any idea why he could possibly be doing this? It's so weird. Now look, the good thing about this story, if there is a good thing, is that this was posted 8 years ago, and there have been a lot of updates and revelations from that point onwards. But before we get into OP's first update, first of all, we're gonna have a quick look at the comments and see what the people of Reddit are saying about this unbelievable story. Alright, jumping into the comments. Wow, that is a really interesting situation. You probably should just talk to your husband about it. And OP replies, I know, I'm just at a loss. Like, how does someone bring up something like that? It's a good point. How do you even begin that conversation? It's so odd. I guess maybe wait for him to come in one night and just ask him what he was doing. How freaked out are you by this? What are your big concerns about this? I love him, but honestly, I don't think anyone would love to wake up to see their hubby nose deep in their child's filthy old dirty diaper. Like guys, put yourself in that situation. Your immediate thoughts are going to be, what the F is this bloke doing? I don't like the fact that he's hiding anything from me. Although I guess this is so peculiar that I'm sure he's scared to tell me. I just don't know what to make of it. I haven't seen him do anything other than smell it, so I don't know if it's a sexual thing or not. He's never brought up anything like this to me in the past, and he's the last person that I'd ever think would do something like this. It's more disturbing to me just the look he has on his face when he does it. It's like he's smelling a freshly baked apple pie or something. I just don't know. Yeah, I'm concerned it's more than just, I like the smell of our child's poop sort of thing. And that's the tough thing. The thoughts going through OP's head right now must be mental. I mean, look, I didn't know this was a thing, but here is a comment talking about a fetish. Coprophilia, a feces fetish, is one of those things few are willing to admit, as it's likely the fetishist is ashamed of their own fondness for this activity. I doubt he's got a thing for baby poop, just poop in general. If and when you do talk to him, keep in mind that he may not be able to just turn it off at will. Wow. That is mental. I did not know that that was a thing. Now, this following comment I think is much nicer than I would be in this situation, I'll be honest. He's just as embarrassed as you are. Make him feel safe and talk to him about it. That's the only way to know what the frick is happening and how to help both of you. Good luck. This is the thing. They've got a kid together. They love each other. This woman loves her husband. But what do you do? Like, this is the biggest spanner I've ever seen in any relationship ever. It is so strange. Let's see how OP ended up going about it. So, the first update. I'm still awake right now, feeding the baby, and waiting to see if he'll make a move later on. I'm thinking about confronting him, but I'm not sure if I will or not yet. I will update. Edit 2. Wow, I can't believe how many people have replied to this post. First of all, thank you for all the people who wrote in with such thoughtful advice. I can't reply to everyone, but I've read every comment on here, so thank you. I still haven't confronted my husband about what he's doing. And the other night, after my first updates, after waiting an hour or two, sure enough, he snuck out again for his nightly diaper sniff. I was planning on confronting him, but he ended up coming inside after only smelling one or two. And by the time he came back into bed, I was too nervous and flustered to say anything. So I just pretended to be asleep. I've decided though, that either tonight or whenever he next goes outside, he doesn't every night, but most nights, I'm gonna take a photo of him in the act and be waiting for him with the evidence when he returns inside. I've never been good with words, and I'm just too nervous to sit down with him and bring it up, and someone suggested that I photograph or video him so he has no choice to explain, since I obviously have the evidence, and leave him no room to pass it off as me maybe seeing him doing something else. Hopefully, I can get a clear enough picture that it will be enough for him to realize that there's no way out but to confront the issue. I'll be honest, I'm nervous about how he's going to react, but I know he loves me and our family, and hopefully there's some way we can work through whatever this is together as a family. Thanks again for all the supportive comments and advice. There's been an overwhelming amount of support and only a few weird comments, and I really appreciate people reserving judgment of my family and I. I will update again once I've confronted him, and hopefully I'll be able to wrap this up nicely and it will be happy endings all round. So then, there we go. The first update from OP. Guys, imagine the shock that you would feel at this moment. Writing this post on Reddit, asking people on the internet, just what the hell is my husband doing? Trying to understand it in some way, work out what they're going to do next. It's just an absolute mindfuck, to be honest. I don't even know where you would go from this. But thankfully, this story does have a resolution. Guys, before we get into the third and final update, first of all, comment down below. How do you reckon this is going to turn out? Do you think it's going to be a big argument? Do you think it's going to be an understand? Like, what do you reckon is going to happen? Comment down below now. Don't cheat. Pause the video. Pause the episode. I want to hear your thoughts before I tell you what eventually does happen. So then, here is that update just a few weeks afterwards. First of all, I'm really sorry that it's taken so long to update about this. I've just logged on now for the first time in weeks because things have been absolutely insane for me. I've been putting off coming on here and updating because I'm ashamed and upset and things didn't go the way I'd hoped after confronting my husband, and it's all been just way too much for me to handle confronting myself, let alone confessing to all of you. But I understand I posted my confession on here for advice. I was met with an overwhelming response, support, and understanding, and it's only fair that I give you guys at least one update on the situation as it stands today. I hope you all understand that I don't want to go into too much detail with this. Firstly, to protect our identities, because regardless of what happens, I never did this to name and shame anyone. And secondly, because it's all too painful right now for me to sit down and write out every inch of hurt that has happened to me and my family over the past few weeks. I just don't have that emotional strength right now. Maybe in time I will, but right now I just don't. So forgive me in advance if this is brief, or I skim over details, or dodge specifics. Basically, a few nights after I posted my last edit on the previous post, I gathered the courage to confront my husband. In hindsight, it might not have been the best way to do it, but at the time it seemed logical, and the least confronting way I could, with still providing proof for me and my husband to see. So, that night, I took some pictures with my iPhone and a short video out our bedroom window of my husband outside. It was blurry and hard to see, but enough for him to understand I knew what was going on. I waited for him on our bed with the evidence for a good 45 minutes before he came back upstairs. I expected him to be shocked and ask me what I was doing up, but he instead surprised me. He said something along the lines of, "Oh, did the baby wake you up? I was just downstairs eating some leftovers." Kisses me on the cheek, "Good night then," and tucks himself in and rolls over to sleep. I was dumbfounded at how quick he was to lie straight to my face. I guess when he came upstairs, I expected him to not be able to hold back from what he'd been doing, or at least be worried about why I was awake, or the fact that I was awake. It made me so mad to see that he was prepared to lie to my face and pretend everything was fine when I'd been concerned and upset for weeks that I exploded. I marched around the bed and shoved the evidence in his face, yelling at him and asking what the frick he'd been doing for all this time and why. I demanded answers. The next few hours went by in a blur of yelling and arguing. His argument basically was that I didn't, couldn't, and would never understand why he did it, so why should he even bother telling me? My issue was the fact that I was trying really hard to be understanding of his nightly trash can visits, but instead I just got lied to by the one person in the world who is supposed to be honest to me. A lot more yelling, and I'm bawling at this stage, and I ask between sobs if it's some sort of sexual arousal thing for him, and he surprises me once more by going completely silent and just looks down at his feet. I explode once more, asking him how on earth he can find our child's excrement sexual in any way, to which he got angrier than I've ever seen him in my life. And he yelled at me, "See, this is exactly why I can't ever tell you." And he walked out our front door and drove off. Alright, so I guess that pretty much confirms that this was a sexual fetish thing. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, OP. He's been staying at his brother's house since, and hasn't been to see our son. Frankly, if he's getting off sexually by our son in any way, I don't want him here. I thought I'd give us a few days to cool down before calling him, but he called the next day and said that we needed to talk about getting a divorce. We tried to both have a calm conversation. I said to him, please, let's try and sort something out. Counseling, anything, and all he said in reply was, "Can I see my son though?" And I told him that honestly, I didn't think it was a good idea at this time, considering the circumstances. He said okay, and told me he'd be getting a lawyer and that I probably should too. So right now we're doing it as civilly as we can through the legal system, but I doubt that he has anything against me, considering I have evidence of sorts. My mother has come to stay with me in the family home to help out with the baby, and I haven't had the courage to tell her what our divorce is over. I'm just too ashamed. All I've said is, it's bad, and I tried giving him the option of counseling, which he rejected, and that is that. Look, I don't know what's going to happen from here, but I thought at least you guys should know the essence of it. Thanks again for all the support and understanding. I hope you don't judge me for the way I approached it. I know I could have done better, but what's done is done, and I just need to put my heartbreak aside and try moving forward for the sake of my son. Because he is, and always will be, the priority in my life. And there we go. That is the final update that we've got on that story. Now, I don't say this lightly. I've been reading Reddit stories on my YouTube channel for, almost 3 years now. And I've been a fan of Reddit and frequented the website for, I don't know, maybe up to 10. And genuinely, this is the most insane story / post or anything that I've ever read. Because it's just so wild. Everything seems to be going so well. You're in love with your husband, you have a great relationship, it seems, you have a kid, and then this. Like, look, I've seen some crazy things before, but they are just out of the blue and weird with no context, right? And that sort of stuff does happen. But to have this crop up after being happily married and having a nice kid and having a great family and everything seemingly being so good is ridiculous. And honestly, OP, I'm just so sorry this happened. You know what I really like though, is the fact that despite how weird this is, and look, it's objectively incredibly strange, you were, OP, willing to say, look, I know this is odd, it's weird for me, But we can go to counseling, we can get through this, we can try and understand the situation and find a compromise that will work for our family and, most importantly, our child. But the fact that he was so willing to lie to your face in the first place, didn't really admit to it or give you any sort of reasoning when you explained to him that you knew what was going on, and then didn't accept the counseling and was just like, no, we have to divorce, that in itself is enough to then divorce this man. I'm sorry, but it's true. Like, people are weird. Don't get me wrong. I do some weird things. Not to this extent, but, you know, things that are not normal, I guess. We all do that sort of stuff, don't we? But I think the difference here is that this man has been lying to your face for a long time. And even when you've caught him out, he still lies to your face and doesn't explain what's going on. That in itself, you could argue, is more of an important, vital reason to divorce him than the weird fetish he's got in the first place. Guys, on this one, comment down below. For me, I don't even know if I would have given this man a chance to come back into my son's life. You're sexualizing my kid. That's enough for me to say, no, I'm out. And look, it's easy for me to say. And look, that is easy for me to say, sitting here behind my desk, reading it. I don't know this guy. I'm not in love with him. But comment down below. What would you have done in this situation? It's just such a weird one. As I said, it almost definitely is the weirdest, most insane story that I've ever read, not just on this platform, but probably in my life. Wow. An interesting episode. I want to hear your thoughts. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this absolute whirlwind of a confession. If you want to see more confessions, I have actually made other videos on this subreddit before. Check them out on screen or just search Redditor confession. They'll come up. Insane subreddit, insane post. I need to lie down and really think about this. I mean, unbelievable. I'm looking forward to hearing your comments, to be honest, because I want to know what the majority of people think. Oh, so weird. I hope you enjoyed nonetheless. Drop a like on it if you did. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for a more normal video. I hope, at least.